Welcome to Grantley, my slightly modded Cities Skylines 2 series. In the last episode, we did an overhaul of the public transportation system and greatly expanded the city to double its population. We'll be continuing that theme in this episode by expanding more suburban developments beyond the highway ring, adding districts to the city, and my favorite part, adding an international airport. Now before we get to building, I wanted to address the fact that the new update is now out for the game. I haven't tried it yet on this existing save, but we will see how it goes. Some of the new things they included were that sub-buildings can now be relocated or moved, turned off, or placed freely. There's been a lot of changes to the economy as well. There will be no more government subsidies. They've also added a tile upkeep cost. They've adjusted the balance for education garbage. They've increased the amount of workers for certain buildings. There's also been some changes in the residential demand and also for the household behavior. And one of the big things we're going to see as well is the adjusted rent calculation. They have removed the virtual landlord, basically. So we will see how that is going to affect the city. These are just some of the bigger things that I thought I would update you guys on because that's probably what we're going to be seeing a lot of in the city. There's a lot more that they have done, and if you want to check all that out, I encourage you to go ahead and read the patch notes that have been posted regarding that. But I'm excited to see how this turns out. I'm hoping this doesn't cause too much chaos in my city. One thing it is going to do temporarily is increase the death rate. They've kind of reworked some of the settings around that so we don't get these big death waves. But we are going to see one at first, so don't be alarmed if we see that in the playthrough today. We'll be able to get through that and then that should be evened out. Let's get started now. So starting off here, I am not noticing too many differences in the city. The demand hasn't seemed to change very much yet. Looking in here, we can see the tile upkeep is now part of the expenses, but I'm still doing really well financially. I have a lot of money still, so I'm not super concerned about that right now. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like once it balances out though. Another thing that I've noticed is the water level seems to have decreased along the beach here. As you can see, I detailed this little area here and I stopped at that point because that was where it was covered by the water. And it's not covered anymore. The water level has decreased a lot, so I'm gonna have to fix this a little bit, do some detailing. Luckily, it's pretty easy to fix with this one. You can't like plop it around, move it or drag it around, but you can use the scroll wheel on the X, Y, and Z coordinates to move these around, so that's fairly straightforward and it's pretty easy to get these looking right again. There we go, that's looking a lot better now. I am happy with how this beach looks again. Now that that's out of the way, we can get started with the expansion of the city. I am noticing now that we have that big death wave that they were talking about in the patch notes. I'm hoping that sorts itself out soon. Overall, the economy doesn't seem to have taken a very big hit yet. It's just that big death wave that's happening. It seems to be getting even worse now. Let's get started on the airport first. You'll notice for a while the highway has been rather inconvenient to say the least. You have to go all the way around the city in order to get to the other side of that highway. I think I'm going to connect that again, and I'm going to put the international airport in the middle of that. And as someone who works in aviation for their day job, I really do want this to be done right. And I know that the international airport asset is not the most realistic thing out there, but we're gonna make the best with what we have. I would really like to see eventually either mods or a DLC or something that allows us to have a better looking airport, for example, longer runways and more airport buildings in here. But I think this area right in between here is just the perfect size for this. I want to make sure that there is not anything obstructing the path of the aircraft coming in and out of the runways. We also have a train station that is integrated into the airport, and I am absolutely going to connect that up with the train line that you see on the other side of that. So here is the finished highway around the airport. I know it looks a little bit unusual at first glance, but you just gotta trust the process here. I have a lot of detailing work that I'm going to be doing around the airport as far as building some more realistic looking parking lots and other airport buildings. And the reason that I do have those sort of roads branching off of the entrance and the exit is I'm going to try to build a little bit of an airport town surrounding the airport, as far as having some commercial buildings and some office buildings in the area, and also some industrial buildings off to the side, as you will see. Not all of it is going to be completed in this episode. I don't think. I'm just going to do the very basic things in this one. But trust me, this is going to look a little less strange as I put more details into it. Another cool thing about this is I found this European hotel asset that I think looks absolutely perfect as an airport hotel. I ended up putting this alongside all of these parking areas in front of the airport. I wanted it to make it seem like there were a few hotels surrounding the airport, and I think it turned out looking very realistic, very nice. So here is what the front of the airport looks like now that it is mostly finished. I've got a lot of parking out front with a couple of hotels right near the entrance of the airport. Over on the other side of the train tracks that divide it, I have a sort of office area. I kind of am picturing that to be the sort of airport operations buildings. And then further down by where the cargo is, I have a bunch of industrial buildings. I notice those exist around a lot of real life airports, kind of in the cargo area of the airport. There's a lot of warehouses and stuff over there, so I kind of wanted to recreate that. I also connected the train line up from the airport to the rest of the city, and I put in a brand new train station that is located here kind of across from the industrial area that we previously built at the very start of the city. Right across from the runway, we also have the new cargo train terminal, which is very close to all of our industrial areas. So that'll make it very efficient to transport the cargo to and from the airport and industries and the rest of the city. And with all that said and done, let's get our airport finally connected and get some flights going in and out. Let's create some routes. So we're gonna do the two routes. There's going to be one from Theodore and one from Liberty Center. I was surprised to see with how big this map is that we only have the two connections by air. Now I would think there would be a lot more than that. It depends on the map. Some of them have up to 6 connections, I think. But it seems like kind of a waste with how many gates are available at the airport that I could only have 2 different flights outside of the region. Once again, this is one of those things I'm hoping that will change in future updates. I think maybe with a mod or something, there's a way that I could change it now. If you know the answer to that, let me know in the comments if I can add other airport route. I think that I can. I'm seeing it in the panel here, so I might try that out if that is the case. With the airport now complete, let's go ahead and work on something that is long overdue in our city, and that is creating districts. If you haven't already been able to tell, I'm not the most creative person when it comes to naming things. I've come up with a few generic names for some of my districts, but of course if you guys have any suggestions for what I should name any particular district, I would love to hear that in the comments. I will gladly take your suggestions. My only requirement is that we keep it PG-13. Our districts are now complete. We have the downtown area, the uptown area. North of that, we also have Cypress Peak, which is kind of our suburban area over here. We have East Tech, which is our technical university area. Down to the south of downtown, we have University Center, which is of course a neighborhood with the university in it. Next to that, we have Lakeview, which has access to the beach and the the lake. And by our industrial area, we have, of course, Industrial Crossing. And of course, lastly, we have the Grantley International Airport. With the district's complete, it's finally time for some city expansion. First thing I want to do is go into this industrial area and put in some more specialized industries. I am finally noticing with the economy update that we are starting to lose a little bit of money now. So I would like to counteract some of those import costs and begin producing some of our own goods. So that's why I'm first going with the specialized industry in here. With that now completed, it is time to start expanding into a new neighborhood by our brand new train station. I'm hoping to keep this one slightly more urban, but in some of the other areas outside of the highway ring, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more suburban, which you're going to see here in a minute. Around the outer edge of this neighborhood, I also wanted to put another park, so I'm creating a lane that goes around this little beach area over here. I wanted to change things up a little bit, so in this neighborhood you'll see that I am actually using some of the European zoning for the housing. I'm using the European waterfront housing, and I think that turned out really well here. I like to see a little bit of variation in my cities. I don't want it to all look the same in every neighborhood, so I found that this gives it a little bit more character. As I am working on this area, we have now unlocked the Grand City milestone. Got a ton of new development points with this. We have been long overdue with unlocking the roundabouts. So I'm going to unlock those, and I'm going to place a few of those around our newly developed area. Our brand new neighborhood is now complete. I am quite happy with how it has turned out. I think there's a couple more things that I could go in and detail a little bit better, but other than that, I'm super excited for how the city is currently looking. I think the next thing I'm going to do is start expanding the more suburban areas around the northern ring of the city. In this area, I took a lot of inspiration from a neighborhood that I used to live in. As you can see, it's a very typical American sort of suburban area. I used the lane trick again to create those cul-de-sacs so we can place zoning on the ends of them. These types of neighborhoods are super inefficient and they take up a lot of space, but man, I really do like how they look. I think they add a lot of realism to the city, and the most helpful part to me is that they kind of slowly increase the population. My city's kind of getting up there in population now, and I don't want to be expanding too fast, so these kind of spread out low density areas are what's going to work best for me to gradually increase the size of our city. On the opposite side of our new neighborhood, I have decided to put in some more rural areas. So I am setting that up in order to place some farmland in there, as well as one more little suburban development. I've been working on this area for a little while now, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think I'm going to call it a day. We have gotten a lot accomplished today with the introduction of these two new neighborhoods and the international airport. I have a few ideas of things that I want to work on for the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to stay updated on how the city continues to progress, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.